Welcome.
Thank you.
This sort of completes the picture now. Now we're going to hear from the fan side, but fans who have the ability to implement some of the ideas of that World's Fair into their work. Kevin, starting with you.
Well, I came to my sort of fanship of the World's Fair through Epcot, thanks to Tom, and learned of the history, and was always sort of obsessed with it. And we were looking for, I think we even wrote on a board, locations for the finale of Iron Man 2. And Disneyland was on there. Disney did not own Marvel at the time, and we thought that they're not going to let us do that. And then the World's Fair came up because John has a very personal connection to the World's Fair as well. That's your cue.
Oh, thank you. We haven't done this in a while. So I grew up in a building called the Fairview on the 12th story in Queens. It was named the Fairview because it was built when the fair was built. And my room overlooked Flushing Meadow Park, and I was born in '66. So I had grown up hearing stories about what was there. When my grandfather got an apartment and ours was next door, he would talk about how he had season tickets. He was in the printing business. He would bring clients there, and of course, what was left behind was all of the infrastructure, or some of the infrastructure of the park, including the Unisphere, the big globe that was done by U.S. Steel. And the Tent of Tomorrow was there, and the towers, all the iconography that you've been looking at all morning. And the notion of setting this big set piece in the park and using all of the digital work of ILM to build a version of the World's Fair that I never got to see, and what it would be like if it was still going on today. And positioning Howard Stark, Tony Stark's father, as a Walt Disney-like figure that was having Stark expos every, at the cadence of the World's Fairs, and showing it from all the way back to the time of, as Kevin explored later, back to the time of Captain America, in sort of the pre-war period, or around contemporary with the Second World War. We were creating this parallel history, and so we got to get helicopter plates of Flushing Meadow Park and then build up all those images that you've seen. And it was, it just, even though I've never been there, he's never been there, we still felt a connection to it. I think primarily through Disney and how that spirit was kept alive. And as we've learned more and more about the technology, really understanding all the innovations and breakthroughs that happen that have been so well explained today. And I always, I would ride my bicycle through the park. My company's called Fairview. My logo is inspired by the Unisphere and the Trilon. And as a kid from Queens, that was always Flushing Meadow Park is such a big part of our life. And my grandfather lived on one side of the park. My father lived on the other. I would ride my bike through it. And I'm happy to say that today there's different. My friend Roy Choi is here, Chef Roy Choi. He was there working at the governor's ball. There was a big having food there and seeing the park still alive, and all of it is in the shadow of these structures. And whether it's popping up in Marvel Comics, it was always great to see that iconography there, or the Beastie Boys album, seeing that, seeing that light. And Men in Black, and then we finally got to incorporate that into ours.
Well, Leonard mentioned that production designers don't get enough credit. The late great J. Michael Riva did the production design for Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. And I remember he dove into it so quickly that as the script was forming, I still think it was partially Riva's designs and starting to build what a Stark Expo could be that really locked it in. And he was one of the best and brought that to life for us.
And there's we have, as Tony Stark is looking into his late father's legacy, looking at the films that were inspired by Walt Disney's presentations of Epcot and Disneyland, we try to evoke some of that, and then the big coup de grace was that I believe it was you who reached out to Richard Sherman.
Yes, we wanted a song. We wanted a song for the Stark Expo, and I said, you know, like a 64 World's Fair Sherman Brothers song. And Dave Jordan suggested we meet with Richard Sherman. I thought, are we allowed to do that? Can that happen? And we did, and he was very excited about it. And he talked about having done it. Oh, I've done this before for a movie, and I hope none of you have seen a movie called Beverly Hills Cop 3, because he did a song that makes fun of Small World. And he sort of thought, oh, this non-Disney Hollywood producers asked him to do something, I guess they want a parody. And we said, we don't want a parody. We want a absolutely authentic, real Sherman Brothers song, as if it's 1964 and you're writing it for Walt. And we gave him some of the key elements of Stark and what Stark Industries was about. And he wrote a beautiful song for us. And this was early days at Marvel. He said, can I come in and play the song for you guys? Can I come in and
I need a piano. You got a piano?
We did not have a piano. We did not have a piano, and I think it was almost as hard to get that piano as it was to make the movie. But we got the piano, and he came in and played the song for the first time for John and I believe we have that footage.
Now, picture this. This is the opening. This is the way there are many ways of playing this thing, but I'm going to play it the first way, the way I visualize it would be opening Iron Man 2, where you have montage, a visual, excitement, a choir. Visualize my voice is a beautiful sounding choir that's singing in great harmony. With that, we go on. Oh, bright new morning is dawning, make way for tomorrow today. Yes, a new tomorrow's a morning to light up a great new day. Oh, the future's brimming with promise, and that promise is heading our way. So keep your eyes on that shining horizon and wait for tomorrow today.
I think it's everything you said.
I think it all has to have excitement, sincerity, and also genuine feel that it's positive. There's nothing sardonic about
I don't
it.
know if this has been in you, because you haven't gotten to do this type of thing for a while, but it's so fully formed and realized and authentic. And
It's very innocent.
It's authentic enough that we can play it and actually maybe pull on the heartstrings of the audience.
I
It is
want to.
sincere.
The thing is, there was a time, you guys are too young to know this, but that people really do believe in happy endings. And they believed that tomorrow was going to be better and everything was wonderful. They weren't cynical. A lot of cynicism in the world today. And I say you have to believe tomorrow's going to be wonderful. That's the whole thing. It's a very positive bent. Would you like to hear it one more time? Maybe I'll play it without mistakes this time.
Everything is achievable through technology. Better living, robust health, and for the first time in human history, the possibility of world peace.
You know, somebody, it's a great
And that was John Debney who did our score, and he grew up on a lot because his father did music for Disney. So it was we were so intertwined even, and that was as Kevin points out, before we even had a relationship with before Marvel was acquired by Disney. So it was truly because we were fans, and it was, as you could see on our young faces, how we were containing ourselves. And the notion of hope is an important notion, and I think as I speak, even I've been fortunate enough to work with and speak with George Lucas, and so much of the messaging in that set of films is also informed by this, of telling stories to the next generation and looking forward, because we depend so much on how they handle things as we age and we pass things down and tell stories and try to communicate history, lessons, points of view, whatever we can, but everybody every generation has to do it for themselves, but it's their energy, their enthusiasm, and their optimism where all hope lies for it all. And I think Walt Disney and the World's Fair was emblematic of that, and the fact that you're all here, the fact that we're captivated by it, we were never actually there. We were just living off of the imagery and the stories and our imagination of what it was and could be. It just shows that there's something enduring about that message and something inspiring. And I think that draws us to continue to try to tell stories. And why I feel very fortunate to be able to do the work that I do and work with the people that I work with. And of course have the audiences come and share in that.
What John said about optimism and what Mr. Sherman said in that video, which I haven't seen in quite a while, about optimism is, it's amazing how you recreated the fair for Tomorrowland. Well, we did a version of it in Iron Man 2, but right now we're shooting a movie called Fantastic Four: First Steps, and that entire movie is inspired in a large part by the optimism and the forward-looking nature of the '64 World's Fair. We have there are no pictures, but we have sets, giant sets built right now in London of New York City. And what we had said is, imagine if in the we call it a retro future look, that in the '60s it wasn't just a World's Fair. That architecture, those buildings were not just the World's Fair, it was the world. And that's what the Fantastic Four movie is attempting to be, and the whole thing is really inspired by that feeling that I think people who went to the fair had. What if that were the world? So that's the Fantastic Four coming to theaters next year.
I travel with my own chair. This is my chair. Now, none of you played a ride operator at Tomorrowland, did you? No, I did. I was a ride operator in the movie Tomorrowland.
Is it in the movie? Is it in the cut?
It's in the movie. It's in the credits.
Nice.
Mike Lazarus was my name. But I just want to say, watching that Richard Sherman footage was so incredible for me. I got to meet him one time. The LA Times wanted to do an article, and they were like, "We want to pair you with Richard Sherman and do an interview with both of you." And I was like, "No, no, everything is wrong about that, because he's Richard Sherman." And I was doing the music for Space Mountain at the time. And I remember that just sitting with him in a room was the first time I met him, and I just could not believe, this is the guy I've been listening to since I was a kid. I had my record player down in my basement, and I would listen to that music from the World's Fair as well. I didn't get to go. I was born in '67, but my parents went, and they have pictures, and they took things home, and I still had the book, the guidebook that you showed up there. That was my dad's. I have that in my office now. So this idea in bringing it back to Fantastic Four was, when we started working on that, the thing that I wanted more than anything else was for this movie to feel positive and optimistic. And I think it's the first time in a Marvel film we actually have a main theme that's in a major key.
It is, and the first time that we have a theme before the movie's been shot,
Right.
which he debuted yesterday. I think there's footage of it online.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful theme that he's already made for us.
But it's so fun, and it's so nice to be able to just give the world something that feels positive. Let's do good, and I'm going to keep doing that. Let's push that feeling out into the world, because we need it. And we all learned it from the World's Fair.
By the way, we just learned today, we talked about Marvel at the fair, we talked about the Pixar connection. The Muppets were at the fair. The Muppets, Frank Oz was telling us just weeks before he started, there was a Muppet performance there. So all of Disney now was at the 1964 World's Fair.
Well, that's the kind of far-reaching impact it had, and it's impossible to describe the scale of the fair and the planning of the fair. I just finished reading Robert Caro's Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Power Broker, about Robert Moses, the great master builder of New York, who had a touch of genius in him, but some fatal flaws as well. Fascinating book. What happened was the '64 World's Fair was a flop, a financial flop. They didn't get nearly the attendance that they anticipated. But in '65, when it reopened, there was an urgency. Suddenly, people in the New York area said, we don't want to miss out. We don't want this thing to close. We blew it. We didn't have an opportunity to go. So they started coming in droves. And that's what made it successful, ultimately. And why we're all sitting here today talking about it. When people talk about optimism, I think about Walt Disney and his creation of a film and an accompanying book called Our Friend the Atom. That's a title that can only have come from Walt Disney. But it's saying, don't look at the negative, look at the positive. Look at what atomic energy can do for us, and it can help shape the world in a good way, in a beautiful way. And he made those things happen. Why do you think we're all sitting here and we're all talking and listening? Why do you think we're still talking about that World's Fair? Pete?
Well, I think it's because of it's aspirational. It makes you want to go places and do things and get together with people, and those are, I mean, just hard to. It's hard to say no to just looking at this amazing imagery. It's just so inspiring.
Becky?
Well, the theme of the World's Fair was peace through understanding, and I think that's so important. That's what we do at Epcot. We bring the worlds together, we bring the nations together, and I think if more people used technology and understood each other better, that we would all have peace. And I think that was so important, and that's what we really need in this climate that we're in.
Tom?
I think it's that hope and optimism that we all want and need, and Walt really believed in. He believed people were good, and if they had the right information, they would make the right decisions. So we want that optimism. We want that hope for our future.
Ted?
I'll just echo that again, taking the board hat off. It's a spirit of optimism and a spirit that the future's bright. And in this day and age, I want a bright future. So you look back on it and you know that the 60 years have passed, but it's something that in a rearview mirror that looks beautiful, and we want a beautiful future as well.
Ray?
I think the same thing is about the technology of it, is that the feeling of technology in the 60s was that it was going to help us, it was going to make the world better for us, and I think there's still a version where we want to find the way that technology does that for us now.
Kevin?
Everybody said it. I mean, it's if you look at interviews from even the 39 World's Fair, 64 World's Fair, people say what we've all just said today, which is now more than ever we need it. Now more than ever we need, especially in this day and age. Every day and age needs it. Every day and age wants to believe that tomorrow can be better, and that's why I think we're still here.
John?
I think it's because the iconography, the imagery, the mythology connects with young people. I think a young person sees it and says, that's for me. Whether it's the echoes of it in Disneyland, Disney World, Epcot, or even for myself, looking out at the remnants of it out my window as I grew up. There's something there that seems to hit a chord that we connect with when we're young, and I think that all of us, I don't think we're here because we connected as adults to it. I think we're here because we have a feeling that we felt young, that we get to feel again through connecting with that, as we do with music, food, our mom's cooking, grandma's cooking. There are things that hit our wiring in a way, and I think that somehow, whether it was through Walt, the parks are actually being there, connected with us on a very deep level that we don't really consciously understand, but we keep getting drawn to it because we know that there's something good at the end of that rainbow.
Michael?
I mean, I think we get one go-round, right, in this world, on this incredible planet. It's like, when I look at the World's Fair, I feel like, don't we all deserve to sort of live it through those eyes with hope and optimism? That's what I think. I just think we all deserve that.
there was anyone who expressed hope and optimism more than Walt Disney, it may have been Richard Sherman.
And George Bruns. I want to give George Bruns a shout out
Yeah.
too.
And we're paying tribute to Richard tomorrow with a program called Jolly Holiday at the premiere stage. If you can be there, I encourage you to be there. I'm going to be part of that show, but I'm just one cog in that giant wheel. But we all love Richard, who just left us. He lived 94 good years, and his music will live on forever. Thank you all for being here, for sharing your memories.